on live for probably like maybe 8 months. So I can give you all the excuses and reasons in the world why I haven't, but let's not live in the back. Let's live in the now. So anyway, I just working with clients and seeing like personal things on my Facebook feed. Just wanted to address what I call relationship guilt. Um, I've just seen a lot of people lately making posts about leaving their relationships, and um, it's always interesting to read some of the things that people are saying because we place so much blame on ourselves for being failures when a relationship um, doesn't work. And by the way, if you're new, well, literally, I haven't been live for so long, so I'm going to say if you're new because I haven't done this forever. But um, my streaming system streams to all of my social media websites at once. So if you say something in the chat, sometimes it just tells me that you're a Facebook user and I can't see your name. I just always say that because I don't want you to think that I'm not being nice if I don't say hello back to you because if I can't see your name, it just depends on what which one of my groups you're coming in from. So, but going back to this, like I read people's relationships and they're like, oh, so and I are not together anymore. We're not a relationship any longer. And it's like this big, long justification. And I think we all do it, right? Because it's just this cultural belief that we're supposed to be together forever. And so, I went through this myself, and you start beating yourself up because there's so many reasons, right? Like, oh, I should have paid attention to the red flags when we were dating, and then I wouldn't have got myself into this predicament. Or one of the things that I see with my clients a lot is you feel this I'm not enough. Like I wasn't enough for them to change because how many of you are like me and you're a fixer. So then you take on all this burden because you think to yourself, I can fix anybody. And so then when that doesn't work, you feel like you failed at something, or even adding on to that, you feel like if I was worth it, they could change. So then you get into this like really icky headspace where you're like, oh, well, I must not be worth it enough because if they loved me as much as they said they do, they would be able to stop doing these hurtful things or whatever. So, me, I like to be on the whimsical. So like, dude, I drew you this cool little picture because this is how it got explained to me once when I was going through this process of like, that's the other thing too, is that a lot of people will, you put your story out where you start telling people this is why I left, and then you kind of get like, why didn't you leave earlier? And unless you've been in that situation, because I'll openly tell you that I used to be that person that would look at another person's situation and somewhat judge it and be like, and I don't want to like emphasize this on one side or the other. Obviously, I'm a female, but it goes both ways. Like women are just as toxic and negative and nagging um, to men. I'll just say that in my experience, I feel like sometimes the men get the worst of it because a lot of times they I don't even want to say that. But anyways, I think sometimes it's just way heavy weighted on one side, but women can be just as emotionally or wordsmithing abusive, shall we call it, because we tend to sometimes just be really naggy, right? And then we treat our partner like they just can't ever get it right. You can never do it good enough. And so it kind of goes back into like, we get into that space of being moms. And sometimes we treat our partners like they're children instead of adults. So anyway, I drew this little graphic because when I was going through this and I was trying to make a decision of what I should do I stay or do I go? And someone, helped me to understand that relationships change. You change. You're not the same person that you were. At least I hope you're not, honestly. You're not the same person that you were if you've been married for 15 years. You're not the same person you were 15 years ago that you are today. And the problem is, as neither is the person that you're with. And so to have this expectation that you always come through to the same place at the end, it's kind of a big expectation to have. And so for those that work on it and you're aligned that whole time, in my world with my clients, where we come from, we look at our vibrational level. So it's easy for me to explain it when I say, you're this vibrational match, but sometimes we go through things and we become vibrational mismatched. And when I lost my daughter, I remember somebody telling me that, like, this will be a really, and at that time, my marriage was already chaotic, but someone said, this will really be, it'll either make you or break you. And you see that all the time when couples lose a child. Sometimes it's just too much and they pull apart. So here's my cute little graphic. Okay. So this is how it was explained to me when I was working on this. And I totally forgot I was going to set up my microphone and I didn't. So it's probably, I don't even know if you guys can really hear me, but anyways, we'll get it all figured out if I start, not if, because I need to start going live again. Okay, so here's my graphic, because you know that I like things that are easy to see and explain. So I'm going to show you two different scenarios, okay? This is you and your partner, and you have the same goal at the end, okay? And you're kind of all over the place, but you do it your own ways, and you get there. You get to the end, and you're all happy and great. And for some of us, that works out really well. But for a lot of us, this is more what it looks like. And this is where the guilt comes in, because you're like, oh, I have this goal of where I want to get. And then the closer you get to getting to your goal, remarkably, the further away you get from your partner. And all kinds of things can happen, right? Because you go through even together, you go through a situation. For those of you that have kids together, think of this, like, think about one of your kids and something that they've done that's created a lot of stress between you and your partner. And you've probably handled it completely different. And so your filtering and experiences of your life are making you react differently than your partner's. And we hold ourselves so accountable to thinking that, being in a relationship is just easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Well, it can be if you're both on the same vibrational level, but it can not be when you're not. And so the further away you get from each other, which, yes, the more work you put into it, definitely, but you both have to be doing it. And that's where I see the problem, right? Because I have one person that's working really hard to heal and progress and elevate to a different space, and then their partners just doesn't want that, or they say they want it, but right, their actions are different. And so then theirs kind of looks like this. Okay, so you have the two people, and at the beginning the relationship's fantastic, right? Because we're all together on board. But then as we go through all these things, we have different goals, and then we end up at a different spot at the end. And so I'm going to just say, release the guilt, because if you wholeheartedly put effort into your relationship and you were being true to yourself and true to your partner, there are so many reasons, of which we could list them on and on and on. Perhaps you really just weren't a good match to begin with. So, you can't force that. No matter what you're doing, you're just not a good energy match. Or, I got into a relationship because I have what I call now, which I didn't know at the time, but I had a sympathy wound. I found someone that went through the same experience to me, and it was a connection that we had. A trauma wound. So lots of different reasons why we get into relationships. But if you wholeheartedly put in your effort, stop blaming yourself. You were good enough, okay? It takes the other person meeting you with the effort level. You can't put in more energy and expect you guys to be on the same vibrational level and have a great match in a relationship if the other person isn't giving as much as you are. So take responsibility for your own energy that you're putting in. It takes a lot of good self-reflection. Like, be honest with yourself. Am I honestly giving this all? Because if you're telling your partner, I need you to do this, but you're not reciprocating that. So, they're still coming home after they've been working 12 hours a day, and you're just offloading everything onto them the moment they come through the door. That's not fair either. So, but if you're giving it all, just know sometimes you're just not a good energy match. And it's just kind of this cultural belief that we've gotten ourselves into that you're a massive failure if you can't make it work. But sometimes you just have to recognize that it's not a healthy place anymore and stop beating yourself up over it if you've truly, truly given it your all and it's just not a good place for you to be. All right, you guys, have a beautiful, blessed rest of your weekend. Don't forget, it's a full moon. It is the strawberry moon. So get your moon water going and enjoy the moon energy. And remember, too, just like anything else, it is what your perception is. So I have so many people that are like, it's the moon. The moon is creating chaos and I feel horrible. Well, you do if that's the mentality that you have. So I tell you to shift your perception. Look at it as the moon energy is a beautiful energy. It's an energy to bring in fantastic to your space, and then it will affect you exactly how you intuitively set it to affect you. All right. Bye.